the House of Jordans is burning down, and you can only save either your Jordan collection or your Luka collection. Which one do you save, and why is it the Luka collection? So I'm trying something new here with Friends with Ben in terms of introducing my guests. So I have a special Chris McGill introduction ready for you. This is the first time I'm ever doing this, trying this out. So just bear with me here.
No problem, man.
I need this for this introduction. So
okay, all right. I think I see where this is going.
Catch me if you can. These are the days of our lives. Sleep with an AK, ride with a 4-5. These niggas ain't all going no killer. With these southern gorillas. Cause my click ready to ride when I say ignition. Others ain't got a clue, they coming through suspicion. We do the shit, we do. Causing out with the crew, converting use our mission. I was told to never fake it. The world is mine for the taking. My soul is guys that can't break me, no. So go hard and go harder. Same DNA as my father. So it don't kill me, make me stronger, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher McGill, how you doing, brother?
That is the craziest, funnest, most awesome way I've ever been introduced anywhere. So well done, sir. Kudos to you.
Thank you, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because finding out that you were this big time music producer, producing the likes for all of these artists that I've grown up on, was it was one of those mind boggling facts that I was like, okay, I gotta give this man his flowers. So look, man, you started earning your income as a music producer, what, age of 14? And then you were earning a living in the music business, what, age of 17? So I feel like you have a lot of stories to tell in terms of like this background that people in the card community, hobby community might not be too familiar with.
Yeah, plenty of stories to talk about there for sure, man. I always loved music. Music was definitely first passion in my life, and started making music when I was very young. Always loved hip hop music, electronic music, top 40 style music. I just love those genres. And, life is short, man. And when you're passionate about something, go for it. That's what I would say. So that's how I ended up on that music trajectory there.
And hey, man, you've done a lot with it. So, first one to hit 1 million downloads on mp3.com, if I'm not mistaken, right? I guess the big question here is what made you pivot? And because if you ask a lot of music producers, I feel like a small number of them would say that he's like, oh yeah, by the way, after I finished that, I went to law school. So I'm curious to see how that unique career path went down.
That's a great question. So did music professionally as soon as while I was in high school, like you said, I was earning income from music. Then I became full-time in music. After I graduated high school, I moved to Atlanta, was there for a few years. That's how I linked up with like Bone Crusher and some of those guys. Then went out to Cali and was in Los Angeles for a few years. And then, financial crisis happened and provided an opportunity to take stock of where I was at in life. I was about 23, 24. And I really missed school and I wanted to go back to school. And that was a good time to do it. And I kept on doing music on the side, but yeah, I went back to school, didn't know what I wanted to do, but just really loved it. Really got totally immersed in school. Kept producing music on the side. Like the Tech Nine song was done while I was back in college, so like I kept the music thing going. But then school and then transitioning to law school became huge focus. So like at that time, I kind of had to just put music on the side, and it was just something I would just pick up once every few months. So you could kind of like partition my adult life into two sections. Like the first 7 years of my adult life was music business, and then the next 7 years was education, and now we're in a new 7-year span in the hobby, right? But I've been doing the hobby for the last 5 years, but only working as a professional in the hobby and as a small business owner in the hobby. That's only been going on for about a year. So I don't know, maybe it'll be a 7-year run here as well.
It's incredible, like the different chapters of our lives that we never really expect, right? Where it's like we start off doing one thing, we transition to another, then it goes to another thing.
Ben, that reminds me, I need to ask you about something.
Yeah, go for it.
I know from my own background, engineering, editing, mixing, producing, that introduction that you put together there took some skill, and obviously the editing on your videos is very good. The production quality is top notch. So let me turn the tables a little bit here. Okay. When did this passion for content creation and production start for you?
Oh man, not many people turn the tables on me and spin it back. So congratulations, you've officially caught me off guard. So
nice. Good.
I guess it started back in high school. I took a design and tech course in grade 9. I've always had a very much entertainer, like artsy background. So this was kind of complementing to that, where it's like, oh, cool, I can produce my own stuff too. And then, that led me down a rabbit hole of really falling in love with the whole content creation side of things, not just like, being in front of the camera and acting, as an actor or anything like that, but also everything that goes into the production of a piece of content or a story or a film or whatever you want to call it. And as you know, as a collector too, one of my good friends put it perfectly, how collectors and content creators very much work one in the same, because we're super OCD about everything. Mm-hmm. We're curating this collection, and we're so nitpicky of like, I don't need that card. We have to complete this set. Or when you're editing a film or a piece of content or anything like that, it's like, oh no, got to cut that part out. We're just super nitpicky. So it's funny how these different passions of ours all blend. One and the same in a way.
Totally agree. That's a good analogy between collecting and content creation. There's an OCD component to it. Control. We like to have control and put everything in its proper place. Yeah, absolutely. That's good. That's really good.
Absolutely. Also, considering that introduction, I scrapped together pretty quickly. I didn't even have time to do the mixing and mastering. So I was ready for the audio file and you to come out and be like, all right, hold up. The levels were off here. That the transition here was, but
no, it was good, man. It was very, very good. Well put together. I was impressed.
Thank you, man. Who are your big inspirations in terms of like music production?
DJ Unique, who was the producer for Bone Thugs and Harmony's East 99 Eternal album, which featured their biggest song, The Crossroads. Mm-hmm. DJ Unique, absolute legend. DJ Premier, producer of Jay-Z, Nas, many great songs. Common produced my favorite song for Common. Lots of different producers, man. Lots of different producers. I took inspiration from big names as well: Dr. Dre, Timberland, Scott Storch, these guys. Everybody, who was innovating and pioneering. Jay Dilla. How can we leave off Jay Dilla? So lots of those great producers, man, whether they were underground or more mainstream. I just loved the beats, always loved the beats, and lots of great producers, man, from especially back in that late 90s, early 2000s era, which is when I was coming up.
Yeah, man. It tells in your sound and vibe, because it was like listening to all of the records you produce. I was like, man, this is taking me back to that, like the hard hitting, like late 90s, early 2000s hip hop that maybe I was a little bit too young to be listening to at the time, but really shaped who I am today. So appreciate you for that.
Yeah, well, you have the Yeezus shirt on, right? I mean, like Yeezy, obviously, too, huge influential factor in the music business as a whole. Myself as well. He started as a producer, right? So.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you pointed out the Yeezus shirt, because what I like to do, I like to have these like subtle homages to my guests.
I see what you're doing. Yeah.
I figured you'd pick up on that. Yeah.
Yep. Like the Jordan and the Luka as well. It's very nice.
It was super fitting. I had to dig for that one, because I knew I had that somewhere in a closet or somewhere hidden in the basement. So I
haven't connected the Winnie the Pooh bear yet. Maybe that's me. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. Everyone who's commented on, like, the cater to the set, there's always some sort of connection to Pooh at the end of the day. So I know that Disney connection is universal. So it makes me super glad. Yes, it is. Super glad to hear. All right, so I'm putting you on the spot right now. If you had to pick, one rapper, producer, one hip hop figure, and you had to give them a rookie card, so to speak, who would that be, and what would be on the rookie card?
Whoa, that's a cool question. Jay-Z cards are very popular right now.
Exactly, right?
You had a Jay-Z card go into the six-figure range. Also, when I don't live in Los Angeles anymore, but I lived there for the previous 3 years. And when I was there, we went to a bookstore in downtown LA, and they sold these packs. They sold hip hop packs, and I bought them. I don't have them readily available, but they do have. They've been making cards of musicians for a long time. So who would it be? So I should pick somebody iconic, I think. Mm-hmm. I think I'll pick Kanye West. I think that's a good.
I knew I liked to. Oh.
So, plus, I grew up in the Chicagoland area. So like Kanye being from that area and everything, there's nostalgic ties. He's like, I don't even want to make the comparison, but I collect Michael Jordan Chicago, Kanye Chicago. There's some things going on here. So we'll pick Kanye West. And then, so it's going to be his rookie card. So it should probably line up with that first album, that College Dropout. And so it should be that. So something, it should be themed with that somehow. And he would have XRCs too, from his days as a producer. But this was his coming out rookie card. Mm-hmm. And we'll see. Well, that was around 2003, 2004. So I'm going to say that he should have an exquisite RPA. And he should. So the Kanye West exquisite RPA, and I don't know, the patch. The patch maybe could be from the clothing he was wearing in his car accident. Okay. So, and remember, Through the Wire was like one of his first big radio hits when he told that whole story. So the patch material will come from those clothes, because that was such a transformative moment in his life for him.
Chris, can I just say that you just shot up to the top of my list of like favorite people in the hobby with that answer? Just because, okay, so first I can't take credit for that question. I had a friend ask me that, and I was like, my answer was instantaneous, and it was the exact same answer as you. However, you took it a step further with like taking the actual patch from what he was wearing during the accident. I was like, oh my goodness. Like I just had it of like, an exquisite base. And then, the image from the College Dropout album cover. But hey, you took it a step further with what he was wearing. And I was like,
Great minds, baby.
Incredible. No, that was a brilliant question. It actually transitions perfectly into my next one, which is I'm gonna give you these 5 names right here, and I wanna know if you can tie them all with a single thread for me. All right.
Okay.
So Jody Benson, Michelle Williams, Virgil Abloh, Fred VanVleet, and Christopher McGill.
What could the thread be there? Something about origins, hometown. Maybe Rockford, Illinois, something like that.
Ding, 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 ding. I should, and this is where I insert in the the Price is Right special effects, the correct answer thing. But yes,
You want $1 million bucks? You want $1 million bucks? You want $1 million bucks? You want $1 million bucks?
you are one of the legendary names from Rockford, Illinois.
Wouldn't put my name on that list, but there have been some great people to come out of Rockford, Illinois. That's for sure.
Yeah. What was it like growing up there? Because I know from interviews I've heard with Fred VanVleet and so forth, a lot of people, when they hear of like a city from like a surrounding area of Chicago, people just automatically attribute them to, oh, you're from Chicago, right? But then there's people who are like, I have it here up here in Canada with like people from Toronto, right? If they're from a surrounding area in Toronto, it's like, no, I'm not from Toronto, I'm from this area, or they just claim Toronto as their own. So are you one of those people who you claim Rockford through and through, or for the sake of any argument, you're just like, no, I'm from Chicago?
No, I mean, first of all, rightfully so, people from a city like Chicago, and as opposed to a city like Rockford, they're two different things, and people differentiate between them, and it's serious sometimes. So you don't want to make that mistake with the wrong person. But for me, I just try to make people's lives easy. If they ask where I'm from, I just say the Chicago area, and that usually satisfies their curiosity. But it's the part of the world, the country that I'm from, is often referred to as flyover country, right? Flyover country, but there's a lot of good things happening in flyover country, and it definitely should not all be lumped together. Rockford is a great city, and is, like you said, has produced Freddie VanVleet, the GOAT. That's a nice connection to you and I suppose.
Right, exactly.
Right?
That's my thoughts exactly.
So definitely. And if you're ever talking to some, like, I don't care, but there are people who do take it very seriously. If somebody's, like, tell Fred VanVleet he's from Chicago, and he would probably be like, no, I'm not. I'm definitely not.
Exactly. It's so funny how territorial some people can get in terms of, because like you said, it's like, oh, I'm just Chicago area, and it's just end of. You don't have to explain it anymore, right?
Right.
It's like for me too. I'm about an hour away from Toronto, but for the sake of having to explain where exactly I am, I'm just like, I'm an hour away from Toronto, and they're like, oh, okay, cool, that's good enough for me, right?
Yes, good. Makes people's lives a little easier, I guess.
Exactly. Makes that small talk, ice breaking, chit chat a lot easier, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna give you two things, and I want you to tell me their significance to you right now. Right. 1993-94 Ultra basketball, and 93-94 Ultra scoring kings, Michael Jordan.
Oh, softball, baby. This is easy. 93-94 Ultra basketball. First set I ever made. My favorite basketball set of all time for nostalgic reasons. Also just a great looking set. In 93-94 Scoring Kings, it was maybe the transformative insert that ushered the sports card era, the ushered sports cards into the insert foil, shiny, heroic card design era, along with 92-93 Stadium Club Beam Team and 92-93 Fleer Team Leaders, a couple other cards, Total D. But really, Scoring Kings was all foil, beautiful, beautiful card design, on par with cards that are being made today. Just incredible that it came out that long ago. So, yeah, great set of basketball. It holds a very special place in the history of the hobby for me and for the evolution of the hobby.
So what I find crazy is that, in my opinion, I think the most important year in the hobby is 97-98, for multiple reasons. And I know, as you nod your head, I know you can agree with me there. but you got out of the hobby when these like sets were coming out and really didn't revisit it until you came back in around 2016. So one of the things I admire about you is that you approach the hobby with such a reverence, right? So you have to respect the history. If you're coming into it, you have to know there's like, why is 97, 98 so important, and so on and so forth. What made you, going back into the hobby, you had that connection to the Ultra Scoring Kings because he was like, that was that card that you chased as a kid. What made you dive deeper into looking at the cards that you didn't necessarily grow up with because you had left the hobby at the time, but were, when you were growing up, those were what was popular?
Great question. 97, 98, in my opinion, also is probably the most important year of cards. It just produced all those great parallels that I love. PMG, it was the first year of, and the only year of, the PMG red and green. And it was the first year of precious metal gems. 96, 97 had precious metal parallel, but they didn't have PMGs and they weren't numbered. 97, 98 also, first year of star rubies that were numbered. Just a really important, great year that made some of those 90s grails that we love. First year of numbered platinum medallion inserts, just really, really great year. And so when I came back to the hobby, I had to make a couple of decisions, like quick, like who am I going to collect and how am I going to shape my collection? And I decided to focus on Michael Jordan. And then once I decided to focus on Michael Jordan, partly for nostalgic reasons, obviously, but also because there, like you said, there was a lot of stuff that I wasn't active in the hobby to collect. So like there was a discovery process too. And going through that discovery process, I was like living the 96, 97, 97, 98 years. I was like discovering them for the first time. And so having a lot of the same revelations that people back then were having, and like being gravitating towards the PMGs and like the grails, and so I just, as I went through the discovery process, those cards just, captivated me, and it's been a chase to get them ever since, basically.
Absolutely. And it's crazy seeing, especially those rare inserts and parallels, seeing how much they're going for now just boggles my mind. I know upon your entrance into the hobby, you would come across a jambalaya for, what was a couple thousand at the time. And you were like, oh no, that's an absurd amount to pay for that. And then you fast forward to now and it's like, well, it's not looking that absurd, is it?
Yeah. That's crazy. The state of the hobby is mind-boggling. Maybe some people thought these cards like a jambalaya would get to where it's at now, but I definitely didn't. I will say that.
Out of those, excuse me, out of all of those rare 90s inserts and parallels, as a collector, do you approach it as like, okay, I need to have like one of each of these because they represent, one of the iconic inserts? Or is it one of those things where it's like, okay, I just go for the inserts that I genuinely like? Because I know there's a lot of people who approach it from a very historian perspective of like, okay, I need a copy of each. And then some, it's just pure collector, like, okay, I think the jambalaya is like garbage, I don't want to collect that. And then they just, but...
That's a very smart question, and a very difficult question, and a question that people should ask themselves. Mm-hmm. But you really need to know what you're doing in order to even ask that question.
Yeah.
And so there's, in other words, how do you draw a balance between respecting history and consensus, mm-hmm. versus staying true to your own tastes and your own preferences? And I think I think a balance does need to be struck between those two. Mm-hmm. I think we can go too far in one extreme or the other. Yeah. So if my collection just is purely cards that I think are the most appealing and aesthetically desirable, I could end up going down a very, very weird rabbit hole and acquiring a bunch of cards that nobody cares about and that are worthless. That could happen. And on the other end, if I focus extremely on I'm just going to, acquire a collection that represents the consensus of the hobby and represents what other people think is most popular and most desirable, then I might not like that collection. That collection might be dull and boring to me, and it doesn't express anything about me. There's nothing creative or expressive about it. But so at either extreme, you can go wrong. So you try to draw the balance. And when you draw the balance, I think you find out that, if the stuff that I like is influenced by what other people like.
Yeah.
They don't exist in a vacuum, those two different worlds. So I try to, stay true to things that appeal to me, but with an understanding that these are all social. I'm going to get deep here. These are all social constructs. These are all social constructs. So, to some degree, what I like is very much influenced by what other people before me liked, and their influence and influences me. So I think the right answer is to draw a balance, to be open-minded, but to be realistic with ourselves too. There's always cards that other people love, and then we might get one, and then it doesn't really do it for us. We're like, why does everybody like this? Okay, so if that happens, then okay, that card's not for you. But most of the time, you're going to find an overlap between what you like and what's popular and prevalent in the hobby. And I think that's the way to do it, is try and strike the balance there. So for me, with Jordan 90 stuff, there's really not that much of it. For me, it's all about trying to try everything out. And honestly, I like all of it. So it gets really tough. But so the process for me has been start low, get copies of everything, and then try and, as time goes by, consolidate, and maybe cycle through some inserts, and then if a bigger card comes up, sell those and get that card, and then just keep kind of snowballing my way up. And in doing that, I've had a chance to own nearly every 90s Jordan of consequence. Not all, but almost all of them.
What are the ones that you still need to check off that list of yours?
Yeah, this is going to be a very depressing list because I'm not in a position to afford these days. Well, never really was, but it was in a better position at one time. But the ones I still need, PMG Green.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Never going to get that one, but PMG Green I still need. 97, 98 Star Rubies, base and subset. 97, 98 PMG Championship. 98, 99 PMG, and 97, 98 Essential Credentials Future out of 72 and now out of 9. Those are the main bucket list ones. Oh, there is another one that is on Golden Auctions that ends this weekend.
That
I'm not going to mention. And hopefully,
of course,
I'm going to make a strong push for it, and hopefully it ends. But that's a good chunk of the list right there.
I love the strategy that you approach with that answer, because anytime I ask people, it's like, what do you still have left on your holy grails list? There's some who are super transparent about it. They're like, yeah, here it is. And then there's others who keep those cards close to their chest, because it's look, I don't want to, put myself in a position where I get it gets out of my price range, so to speak. So I appreciate your answer with that completely. Sure. So this is another kind of one of those hotspot questions. I know it's never going to happen, but let's say hypothetically, Panini gets the license to start printing MJ stuff. Out of all of the vast majority of Panini products there are out there, what would be your dream, iconic, holy grail Panini Michael Jordan card?
Easy. First year of Panini Prism that has Michael Jordan in it. And it would be a perfectly fitting year if it was the 2023-24 Prism run.
Yeah.
So let's say it's that. So it would be the 2023 Prism Nebula, 1 of 1, Michael Jordan. And I love Nebula. There's, the black 1 of 1 parallel has more legacy to it than the Nebula. The Nebula is exclusive to Prism Choice. But I love the Nebula because I love Prism Choice and because the Nebula design is inspired by the 97-98 PMG Championship design, especially
nice.
the pattern, the finish that they used on the card. So to me, that's my dream Panini era Michael Jordan card.
That's incredible. I had no idea that they were inspired by that, but it makes sense. I mean, so many people, so many of the OGs in the hobby love to say how National Treasures is basically just a ripoff of Exquisite. So it's you can really see the influence in the different Panini products. There was this one, I forget what it was. I believe it was in Crown Royale, but it was pretty much a knockoff of Competitive Advantage with the 2 arches.
I know exactly what card it is. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's Power in the Paint. I think it's called. Yeah, that's the one. I remember seeing that and I'm like, this looks familiar. Where does this look familiar? But hey, it's the remix culture that we live in, right? So many people like to take what was great in the past and kind of modernize it to the present. I mean, if you make the connection back to hip hop, it's like sampling, right? Which a lot of artists are doing now. One in particular that comes to mind is Tory Lanez, when he's taking all these classic 2000s R&B songs and he puts his own little twist and 2020 spin to it, right? So it's crazy how the power of nostalgia is not just in the hobby, but just in life in general, so to speak.
Totally agree. And more power to Panini for doing that. They obviously could have gone in a totally different direction with their brands and their sets, but they didn't. They brought in people from the industry, from the hobby, to work for their company and to work on the designs. And, they continued a lot of the great brands and products and trends that had been started, and they were continuing, they just created continuity. And there's something to be said on either side of that, good and bad, but to me, I am glad to, when I open up a pack of Prism or National, or look at National Treasures or whatever, that like a lot of this stuff is familiar. It's not exact, but it is familiar. It is inspired by those great Upper Deck, Fleer, Skybox products of the 90s, Topps Chrome, and the 2000s.
To take a page from your book and get all deep, it reminds me of that one quote. I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Confucius or anything crazy like that, but it was a good artist copy and great artist steal.
There you go.
Right. And you can really see that in the influence behind, not just with cards, but any sort of, heck, you want to take it to content, that as well. People, they get inspired by the greats, such as yourself. And then they take little tids and bits and that uses it to craft their own voice and style. Right. So, look, we could talk about cards and like Jordan cards specific. There is one thing I remembered that I wanted to ask. So if you're crafting that Choice Nebula Jordan, what image are you using of MJ?
Game 6 fadeaway, or not the fadeaway, but the final shot in Game 6 of the 98-99 or the 97-98 NBA championship. It was Michael Jordan's last shot as a Chicago Bull. Mm-hmm. That when he made that shot, it was right after he stole the ball from Malone. It was the game-winning shot. The shot happened with 6 seconds left on the clock for his 6th ring, and it was to score his 45th point. So Jordan fans, some of us really like the numbers and how the numbers all line up and stuff. So 6th ring on the 6th second to score 45 points. And it would be some type of image capturing that shot for sure. I don't know that a card ever really quite captured that shot. So I would just go right to that shot. Maybe the most iconic or one of the most iconic moments in Jordan's career.
That actually surprised. You'd think that like maybe an Upper Deck chronology would have that on like as because
They probably do. They probably
maybe, yeah, because that again that goes back to the taking what was iconic in the remix. It's like with the 1-in-1 timeless moments taking from like their chronology. I can never pronounce that word. Is it chronology or I can't.
chronology. Yep, you got it. And you know what? I bet you're
I'll just
right.
make sure.
There was a lot of great sets that came out after Jordan's playing years that did, especially from Upper Deck, that did crystallize certain moments. So I should correct the record there. Playing years cards, which is what I focus on. I don't think any of the playing years cards feature that action shot, but I bet you're right. I bet there is a card, maybe several, from post playing years that capture that moment.
I mean, yeah, that'd be one that'd be hard to really kind of capture during his playing years because, like you said, that was his last one as a Bull, and then pretty much all the cards that came after the few Wizards cards. I mean, so is that one of those things as a Jordan fan? Because it's a very divisive topic where it's like, is that in the realm of, okay, we just forget about those years, or is it one of those ones where you acknowledge it fully of like, hey, it's still an important part of Michael Jordan's career?
No, it's a great question. At the time it was very disappointing. Because there was so much enthusiasm and optimism about Jordan coming back, but people also were skeptical. And then, he came back and he didn't come back to the Bulls, and that was kind of heartbreaking. Yeah. And then, he came back and the teams never really panned out, and he suffered serious injuries both seasons. So like there's not a lot of nostalgia for that period of time. But they were important years in his legacy and his career. It just kind of summed him up in a nutshell. The guy just couldn't stay away from basketball. He couldn't stay retired. He just loved the sport. And you have to admire that. And also during that first year with the Wizards, by the months of January and February of that year, he was back to his career averages in points and shooting percentage. So like he had ramped back up to playing really elite basketball. And then he suffered a season-ending injury. So that was really unfortunate. But I say that because we think about LeBron. And people are like, oh, LeBron is 36 and he's going to be in his age 37 season coming up, and he must be at the very end. Well, I don't know. Michael Jordan at age 39 and age 40 was playing a really high-level basketball, and the medicine technology, it didn't exist the way we have it today. So I just tying something in there. I don't people closing the book on LeBron, don't close it yet. I think if the way MJ played at age 39 and 40 is any indicator, LeBron's got still a good half decade of basketball left in him, perhaps.
So I hate using revisionist history in terms of like, oh, what if this happened? But I have to ask, because it's a question that, and I need you to give the most non-diplomatic answer, because I know you can come out with the politically correct answer. And
yes, I can. Yes,
but no, for this one, I need the full unabashed, like, if you want to be completely Homer with it, I need this answer. So if Jordan played in today's era, is how dominant is he?
Ooh, that's a good one. I hold Michael Jordan as the greatest player of all time. And when I think about what it means to be the greatest player of all time, part of it is that the player would be great today.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense to say somebody's the greatest player of all time if they couldn't hold their own, if they were currently participating in the modern era.
Yep.
And then you could say they were the greatest of their generation, but you couldn't really say they're the greatest of all time. So I personally think, the talent, the skill set, the athleticism, the mindset that Jordan brought to the table, I think he would be as dominant, if not more dominant, in today's game. Today's game is very much driven by wings. Michael Jordan is the quintessential NBA wing.
Yep.
Kind of the way that the rules pertaining to defense have changed, he would be scoring even more at will than he did in the 90s. I would be amazed. I would love to hear the argument I don't even think this is a controversial opinion. Yeah. I would love to hear the argument to the contrary. How would Michael Jordan not dominate today's game?
No, I love that you gave that answer, because I agree with you as well. It's like, I don't think it's that controversial of an opinion, but obviously, you have two very strong fan camps and fan bases. You have, you have the Jordans and then the LeBrons, and that, we can get into that like for hours. This is like, just like we can talk about like Jordan cards and Michael Jordan for hours, which is coincidentally how you started House of Jordans, because I believe it was you and your cousin Brian and Kristina were sitting around a table just talking nonstop about Jordan cards and Michael Jordan himself, and then the light bulb went off and was like, you know what, we talk about it so much, why don't we start a podcast? So tell me more about the legendary House of Jordans origin.
Oh, you summed it up, man. That is it. And the only other thing is that, having a background in entertainment and production, what meant that, I always have a bunch of microphones, and, I happened to have like 4 condensers with me in my apartment in LA, and, had my studio set up for when I would go have fun working on music. So it wasn't a stretch. Just be like, hey, we're all here. Let's set up some mics and record a podcast. I know how to record stuff and edit stuff and everything. So it was just more of just like, do we want to put the effort in and actually do this? And I'm so glad we did. I'm so glad we did. So
because it's did you ever think it would spiral into what it's led to you now, in terms of we go back to talking about the 7 years of this new chapter of our lives, and so to speak? Did you ever think that it would lead to this and you developing Card Ladder and everything?
No, I didn't. It was purely done just to have fun and just to entertain ourselves and others, and just be a part of the community. It was just, it was a complete hobby, fun project that, as those projects sometimes do, became over time all encompassing, and, it took on a life of its own.
It's a testament to the strength of the community and the hobby, right?
Sure.
People always talk about what's the best part of the hobby, and it's the people, right? Because it opens so many doors and you make so many different connections that you didn't think would like lead into like these business partnerships and whatnot. So with that said, is like, how exactly did you and Josh meet and link up?
Good. Yeah. Josh and I met over after messaging each other on because did you ever go on blowout forums? Are you familiar with those?
I was just about to ask. I was like, was that one of those friendships that started on blowout? Because I feel like that's a common. Yeah, it's a fascinating origin how people link up on blowout and.
Yep. So but I don't. Blowout forums can be a very nasty, mean place.
Yeah, it can.
The thing that brought us together was that we both were upset and we were commiserating over the way another person was being mistreated. So that's how we started talking, and we pretty much never stopped chatting after that first day. It was just a very natural, smooth friendship of common interests and similar personality. And, I before we even had started chatting, though, I had been a big fan of Cardboard Chronicles. And so then we started chatting, and he invited me to be a guest on his show. And it was a very early episode. I think it was episode 14 or something like that. then after doing that, that was what kind of gave me the confidence to start the House of Jordans podcast.
Yep.
So, a lot of dominoes fell there, but Josh and I have been friends now for years, and it is funny though. It started on Blowout, as many things in this hobby start. So yes,
it's there's a part of me that was like I feel like it's a Blowout origin story, but I'm not entirely sure. But it goes to show how these like online friendships can truly evolve, right? Now I'm sure you guys didn't bond over your fandoms, right? Because does that ever have you guys ever gotten into like heated debates like over like who's the GOAT? Because with my boys we have it almost like every single week over like, I think Jordan's it's like, no, it's LeBron. So I have to imagine that it's a constant, now that you guys are like really, really close friends, I could imagine that becomes a very healthy but heated debate at times.
It really doesn't.
Okay.
It really doesn't. I think we both have a healthy respect for the player that the other collects. Josh has always been very respectful of Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Josh doesn't really see, Josh, I'm sure in his heart of hearts believes LeBron is the best player of all time.
Right.
But he never believes that at the expense of taking away what Jordan did. Right.
Mm.
Like it's never comes, he never will downplay Jordan to pump up LeBron. Mm. And, same goes for me. I have a lot of respect for what LeBron has accomplished. And, it also, I think both of us kind of feel like it doesn't really matter,
Yeah, no, that's fair.
It's a fun debate to have and makes for great content, but it's never really been an issue. The more if there's ever anything that we maybe don't always see eye to eye on basketball wise, it was that I'm more willing to get high on a prospect at a young age, and he's much more let's wait and see, very difficult to become an all-time great player, stuff like that. So that made it interesting when Kristina and I began collecting Luka very heavily, and he was like, this is silly, you guys, like he's very young, he's very good, but he hasn't accomplished anything yet. All valid points, but I think we have a little bit higher risk tolerance than he does.
You're the king of segues, Chris, because that leads perfectly into it's actually a question I already asked you. Yeah. I asked you this on an episode of Sports Cards Live. Technically, it was an episode of After Hours, but I knew what the answer was going in. But I just needed to put it out there so the people know, because I'm a man of the people, and I gotta give them what they want. So I'm gonna ask you one more time on record. The House of Jordans is burning down, and you can only save either your Jordan collection or your Luka collection. Which one do you save, and why is it the Luka collection?
Kristina loved that question. I don't know. What did I say? Do you happen to? I don't remember what I said on that episode, honestly. I think I definitely saved the Jordan collection, but I saved both. I go back in. I get both.
Well, no, that's the thing. No, you can't use that cop out. It can only be one. But I said in my answer, I was like, because I pretty much answered it for you. I was like, you can't use Kristina in your answer.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That would make sense. Sense.
No. The reason why I bring that up is because it's safe to say that if we want to make hip hop references here, when it comes to the hobby, you and Kristina are like Jay and Beyonce. Let's be real here. Any of the people in the hobby listening to this, I'm sure that's a universal universal statement. So how'd you guys meet in college, right?
Yep. Kristina and I met as undergrads. She had been at the university. We were both non-traditional students. We both went back to college in our mid-20s. And so she had been at school for a year more than me. And so she was the president of the non-traditional student group. So, so I came in and, joined that group, obviously. And that's how we got acquainted, was she was the president of that student group. And then later, we became co-presidents of the non-traditional student group. So yeah, that's how that started.
So who asked out who first?
Obviously I
okay, just wait.
asked her out. And but we were trafficking in the same social circles for pretty much from the time I showed up. So
now was it a thing of because obviously your re-entry into the hobby came as you were finishing up college, right? So was that a thing where she came in with you and like you both adopted that love for cars, or was it a thing of like she was already kind of into it and then kind of like, oh cool, you like this too? Or if that makes sense. That's not the most articulate way I could phrase that, but I tried.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So her brother had collected X-Men cards, so she was familiar with how collecting and cards worked. And I collected cards as a kid.
Yep.
And then we both graduated, and then that led to some time off as I was taking a year to prepare for the LSAT and then apply and go to law school. And so during that period after graduation, rediscovered my old collection. And at first, I don't think she had any interest in that, because she was just kind of like, okay, he's going through his old cards. He's weird. This is nothing new. But after a few weeks went by, I started pulling her into it. And I was like, do you want to go to Walmart with me and get a bunch of penny sleeves and top loaders? And she was like, yeah, why not? Let's go. What else do we have to do? So we go and we start picking up supplies. And then I'm like, well, there used to be hobby shops, right? Like, let's go find a hobby shop. And then she's like, hey, we should buy some packs of some of the new cards. And then, she likes it, she gets interested, and I get interested. And then before you know it, there's a big brown box, shows up at our doorstep, and it's from Dave and Adams. And Kristina has ordered like 20 blasters of 2015-16 Donruss. And I'm like, what is this? And then she really got into like the opening product, and she really liked the card designs and stuff. And so she found her own path and stuff that she liked about the hobby, and it benefited my interest, because I would never have been the guy to like go open new packs and new products and stuff, but that that was her lane, and then that made me want to do that more. And like I was more the guy who collect singles, collect graded, and she would never do that.
Right.
But because I do it, she took an interest in it. So there's a good balance between like what she likes, what I like in the hobby.
And it's all thanks to Karl Anthony Towns. Oh,
yes. So her first hobby box she ever opened was 2015-16 Donruss basketball, and she got Karl Anthony Towns Elite Dominators auto out of, I believe, 25. So like she got one of the very best, and we started right after the Rookie of the Year had been announced. So it was at the end of his rookie year. And so she got the Rookie of the Year's, one of his 2 or 3 best cards you could possibly get that product in her first box. And so, she went on to hit like all the good Karl Anthony Towns cards. She was on a hot streak. That's probably to blame for why she got so immersed into the hobby, was because she was doing so well at the beginning there.
Absolutely. And then eventually that spiraled into a now shared love for what we like to call if you buy any card ladder merch, the baby goats here, the baby goat. when Luka came into the league, a lot of people gravitate toward him and share those same sentiments of like, yo, man, like this kid could be the next, this could be the next MJ or LeBron. At what point, if there is a specific one, did you both come to that realization of like, yo, let's this guy's legit. Let's collect him.
Yeah, well, there was a couple of phases. The reason why we started collecting him was just because we during the winter of 2018, going into 2019, we took a visit to Dave and Adam's card shop in upstate New York, got a couple of boxes of Prism Hobby 2018-19. Kristina pulled a Luka Prism Orange out of one of those boxes. So that was the best card we'd ever pulled out of a box. And so we were like, oh, wow, let's start paying attention to Luka. And then as we started watching, like the same night that we opened that box, it was the night that he hit that shot, that impossible corner buzzer beater against the Portland Trailblazers that like had Lillard like sitting on the floor, like in disbelief. And so like, we're like, oh, he might actually be pretty good. But his stats were like modest, good, very good for a rookie, but modest. Then after so we started watching his games, and then I bought League Pass, and then we started watching every game. And then post All-Star break, he really started playing well. And I think like his averages post All-Star break rookie year were like 25.7 rebounds and 7 assists. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. If he can continue playing at that level, maybe he's going to have a pretty special sophomore year. So over the summer, after his rookie year, we started collecting Luka like heavily, and like not just like, oh, can we pull a silver out of a Prism box, but just like, let's start getting his key cards. And then his sophomore season began. He won Western Conference Player of the Month during the first month of his sophomore season, averaged a 30-point triple-double, and led the Mavericks to like a top 3 seed in the West. And at that point in time was when I realized that he has a really high ceiling and he could be a really great player. So that was really the realization, was like after that first month, when he showed like he made that huge leap from rookie to sophomore year.
That was like the perfect storm of timing and everything too, because it feels like, I'd have to dig back in terms of like data and everything. But that sophomore year coincides with like the hobby really starting to pay. I mean, some could argue that people who have been in it for a while, that the boom truly started like 2017, 2018, but it really didn't take off until like end of 2019, 2020 when COVID hit. And then that's when everything was going crazy. But at the same time, Luka was playing like, oh my gosh, this guy's actually playing like MVP caliber in his second year. Like he's the real deal. So it's you guys got in at a very, very good time. So
very lucky that happened the way it did. And like, also, it should be, that was Zion's rookie year as well. Brought a ton of people back to the hobby. And then, you had the tragedy with Kobe that would happen in early 2020. Like there was just a lot of things that happened in that 2019-20 season that brought many people back to cards and to collecting, to memorabilia, and to the hobby.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I'm not sure if I feel like you've talked about it before, but going back to the Jordan talk, The Last Dance, that was the perfect storm of everything happening at once, with COVID with COVID locking everything down and shutting down all the leagues. And then that's the only piece of like sports that people can consume. And then everyone was like, oh, the prices won't get higher than this. A PSA 10 Fleer is not going to be higher than this. And then, it's
a year later, it's 10 times higher. Yeah.
It's still crazy. It's still crazy. Okay. So I love asking this question because I love hearing all the different perspectives on this. And so you're an avid Jordan and Luka collector, right? So with that, I have to ask, you have to make a Mount Rushmore of Jordan cards, and you have to make a Mount Rushmore of Luka Doncic cards in terms of like importance to the hobby. What would your Mount Rushmores look like?
Jordan is going to have the PMG green.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have the 86 Fleer. It will have 0304 Exquisite limited logos. And 93-94 Scoring Kings.
Nice.
So that's Jordan's Mount Rushmore. Luka's Mount Rushmore will be his
Prism base.
Maybe that'll be an honorable mention.
Okay.
Let's put his National Treasures Logo Man Auto 1 of 1, the card that made many headlines when it sold privately for around $4 million. So that's going to be on there. The Luka Nebula 1 of 1. We already talked about Nebula, and great card from Prism. What else should go on the Luka Mount Rushmore? I'm only going to put 2. We'll put those 2. Those are 2 monster Lukas. Luka still has a lot of time left, a lot of hobby history to acquire. So we'll give him half of a Mount Rushmore.
I was half expecting that answer because I was like, it's so tough to kind of try to build one when, he's only 3 years into his career. So no, I was half expecting that. So that's great. That's great. So with all of these card prices, like you said, like the 1 of 1 Logo Man going for like insane amounts of money, like life-changing amounts, like 4 million. At what point as a collector do you have to sit down and be like, you see what like the collections you have, obviously they build in value over time. At what point does it become a thing of like that card that was eternally not for sale? Like it was that I'm never saw. At what point does it become a serious conversation you have with yourself of like, okay, this is life-changing money. Do we sell this?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's an existential crisis.
Of course.
A good crisis that a lot of collectors have faced over the last few years.
Of course.
And it's an unfortunate question people have to ask themselves because the hobby should always be fun. It should be about collecting and acquiring things, and it should never come at a point where it creates anxiety about, do I have to give up my hobby or give up these cards I love and cherish collecting because just the financial equation here has made things too difficult to keep. So ideally never, right? Like ideally we're all Nat Turner. we all just build these museums of cards, and we just do it because we just love it. But I think for anybody not named Nat Turner or Bob Track or a few of these other legendary collectors, people do reach that point. But I don't know, man. I think the name of the game is doing everything in our power to never have to sell a card because it's worth too much money. Because that just isn't the spirit of cards. It's not the spirit of the hobby. The spirit of the hobby is building your collection and cherishing it and taking it with you and then passing it on. So hopefully you never have to get to that point, but people do get to that point, and when they do, more power to them. But I think what happens is that, they ultimately, man, if they're as crazed and fanatical about cards as you or I and some other people in this hobby, it hurts, if you sell a card to pay off your mortgage or to pay off your student loan or something like that. It really hurts because you're like, I'll never get that card back. And I'm glad I took care of my personal obligation, my personal liabilities, but the card's gone. And, you know, I don't know about you, but, you know, I'm sure it's the same. For me, you know, kind of the collection that we own is kind of, it's part of our identity. It's who we are. It says something about us, right? So I don't know. That was a very weird answer.
No, I appreciate it. It's like you said, it very much is an existential question because, you know, from the outside looking in, someone would be like, you sell it immediately. What the heck? He's like, you take that money and run. But then it's like, it's one of those things where you don't even just apply it to cards, any sort of hobby. If something like goes up to value, it's like, for example, someone collects, I don't know, like stamps or boats, or those were just the two random ideas I came up with. And they reach like a crazy value, but they have that attachment to it, right? Like you said, it becomes a part of your identity. And it's one of those passions where, like you said, it's a hobby, right? You're supposed to enjoy it. If you get a lot of enjoyment from that, it's like, why would you sell it, right? If it's part of you. So not everything has to be completely monetary, right? So
exactly. Part of the reason why cards have value and have gone up so exponentially is because there are so many collectors out there who don't have a price and who keep those cards no matter what. You know, and so that's one of the things that makes collectibles good investments. It goes back to Josh's quote. We don't like sports cards because they're good investments. They're good investments because we like sports cards. Right?
Absolutely. That I feel like will go down as like a very Sun Tzu level quote for hobbyists for years to come, because I remember I heard that for the first time and it just stuck with me. And then I see it get quoted over and over from like different pieces of content I consume, and I'm just like, yeah, that's a legendary piece of
yes, it is.
Right. So I want to close this off obviously with I can't have you on the show without bringing up Card Ladder,
sure.
which is like your primary main venture right now, so to speak. What I love about it most is that you very much approach it with helping the hobby grow through education as well as transparency, right? And you use data to do so. You have a very data and analytical background, and you're applying that to the hobby. So what, in terms of innovation, when it comes to Card Ladder, what do you have next planned? Or is that one of those things where it's like, we keep in that secret?
Oh, well, great question. I appreciate the kind words. You know, there's two main aspects to Card Ladder: fun and data. And those two things might seem like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, but there are a few of us who have fun nerding out. But we try to bring those two things together in cards. So like you said, dude, having access to information, sources, and data is important. It helps make informed decisions, and it's important to have that available, and for the data to be vetted and for the data to be clean. Which is, you know, something we specialize in. It's at the heart of our business. But the other half of our business is fun. And like the Card Ladder app, we're always thinking about, is this making the hobby more fun? And you know, when people log into the app, is it making them happy? Is it helping them enjoy the hobby somehow? And so everything that we try to do, whether it's like the collection feature or just the way that we present cards and the way that you sort of, you know, search through the app to find cards, it's all towards the goal of just making collecting cards, participating in the hobby, discovering cards, just making it fun and enjoyable and neat and interesting. And so the next feature, well, like the big thing we're working on right now is this fantasy collection thing.
Yeah.
So anybody who's a Card Ladder Pro member can participate for free. The prize is a 2019-20 Prism Cello box and a lifetime membership, sorry, not a lifetime, a year-long membership to Card Ladder. So very, you know, prize worth 4 figures. And all you have to do is just make a fantasy collection. You have up to 10K in Monopoly money, fake money. You can spend up to 10K, build a collection, and then whoever's collection appreciates the most from July 1st to the end of July, whoever's collection appreciates the most, they win. They win the grand prize. So hopefully it's fun. Hopefully people get a kick out of it, enjoy it. There's leaderboards and everything, and so have you entered? Are you going to enter? I wonder.
I'm glad you brought that up because I want to commend you on that. That was a genius move coming up with that, because for a lot of people, sports cards is very much like fantasy sports in a way, right? Because it's like you have the player that you own a stock in with their cards, and then you're watching them as their career like unfolds. So I felt like that was the proper next step. So when you guys actually executed it, I was like, oh, it was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that'll be super fun to try to build these dream collections and see which one is worth the most, so to speak.
Yeah, just something fun, in a way. And it's amazing. It's even making me, because like I can't win obviously, but I'm still playing the game, and it's making me think about cards much more precisely and analytically. Yeah. So like there's something educational about going through the exercise and thinking and like, knowing that, there's no shortcuts here. This is going to be my collection up against these other guys. And, so what I did, my theory was I just went all in on Giannis, because I'm thinking that the Bucks this is going to be their year. And then Giannis is going to boom after they win it all. So that was my hedge, because like in order to win the competition, you're going to have to make a big bet. You're not going to be able to play it safe.
Yeah.
So that was my big bet. We'll see if when August 1st comes around, we'll see if that pays off. But I went all in. I spent all 10K on Giannis card.
That's incredible. Yeah, because you're gonna need that like spike to kind of like really propel you to the top of the leaderboard. And I love how you brought up how there's the education aspect as well, because like people we're doing this for fun, but as people are building these collections, trying to use their 10,000 bankroll, it puts their own collections into perspective of like, wait a second, this is okay, if this is what's valuable, maybe I should like apply this to my own collection, and then it makes them view the hobby in a different light.
Totally, man. Exactly right. The only thing I would say is that there's different ways to think about the hobby: short term, medium term, long term. This game is very short term, which is fine. Some people approach the hobby short term. But there's also different, I've always been a very long-term thinker. So like trying to think short-term is new, and it's challenging, and it's fun.
And honestly, that's really what it comes down to. If you're having fun with the hobby, it's like, there's opportunities to make money and all that. But if you're not having fun with it, it's like, why are you here? What's the point? Right. But
yeah, totally agree.
Chris, thank you so much for hopping on with me and chopping some shop. I still don't know how of a proper way to end these podcasts yet. I'm still figuring that out. But
that was good. Chopping some shop on Friends with Biz.